Most thieves steal for gold, but Lyric's heist was for justice. The night she crept into the Alpha King's vault and took his crown, she sealed her fate in ways she never imagined. Because Dax Ashenheart didn't just want his crown back, he wanted the thief who dared touch it. And when an Alpha King marks you as his, there's no running, no hiding, only surrender. For 3 years, Lyric had lived in the shadows of Emberfell, the glittering capital of the Moonborn territories. By day, she was a nameless face in the crowded market streets, selling herbs and tonics to nobles who never looked twice at her threadbare cloak. By night, she was something else entirely, a shadow that moved through locked doors, over palace walls, past sleeping guards. A ghost who stole not for greed, but for a debt unpaid and a kingdom stolen. The Ashenheart crown wasn't just a symbol of power. It was power itself, forged from moonstone and shadow steel, imbued with the essence of every alpha who'd worn it for 3 centuries. To steal. It was to steal the very authority of the throne. An act of treason punishable by public execution. Lyric had stolen it anyway. She hadn't meant to fall for him, the king whose crown now sat hidden beneath the floorboards of her cramped apartment above the apothecary. How could she love the man who sat on a throne built from her family's ashes? The king, whose father had crushed the rebellion that killed her parents, who had scattered her pack to the winds, who had left her an orphan at 14, with nothing but rage and a promise carved into her bones. Take back what was stolen. But love doesn't ask for logic, and her traitorous heart had decided 3 years ago that Dax Ashenheart, with his storm-gray eyes and the weight of the world on his shoulders, was hers, even if he could never be. She'd watched him from the shadows, learned the furrow between his brows when border disputes kept him awake, the rare smile he gave to children in the market, the way he slipped coins to struggling families when his advisors weren't looking, the loneliness that clung to him like a second skin despite the crown on his head. Lyric had told herself it was reconnaissance. Know your enemy, study his patterns, find his weaknesses. She'd lied. Now, standing in her tiny room with her latest spoils spread before her, Lyric allowed herself one moment of weakness. She lifted the crown, heavy, magnificent, humming with ancient magic, and closed her eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered to the empty air, though she didn't know if she was apologizing to Dax or to the ghosts of her family. "But this ends tonight." The crown would be delivered to the resistance leaders by dawn. They would use it to rally the scattered packs, to prove that the Ashenheart reign could be challenged. That justice, after 15 years, might finally come. Her wolf stirred uneasily beneath her skin. "Wrong," it whispered. "Mate. Danger." Lyric silenced it, as she always did. Her wolf was broken, had been since the night she'd watched her parents die. It didn't understand politics or revenge. It only understood instinct. And right now, her instinct was screaming at her to run. She should have listened. Lyric's hands trembled as she wrapped the crown in layers of black cloth. 3 hours until dawn. 3 hours until her contact from the resistance would meet her at the old mill outside the city walls. 3 hours until she could finally leave Emberfell and never look back. She was fastening the bundle when she heard it. The sound that turned her blood to ice. Footsteps, multiple pairs. Heavy boots on cobblestone, moving with military precision. Then a voice, deep and commanding, directly below her window. "Surround the building. No one enters or leaves." Lyric's heart stopped. She knew that voice, had memorized every cadence, every inflection, during 3 years of obsessive watching. Dax. She crept to the window, pressing herself against the wall as she peered down. The narrow street was flooded with royal guards, their silver armor gleaming in the lamplight. And there, at the center of them all, stood the Alpha King himself. He'd shed his formal regalia for practical hunting leathers, but his presence was no less commanding. Storm-gray eyes scanned the building with predatory focus, his jaw set with grim determination. Even from this distance, Lyric could feel the weight of his alpha aura pressing against her senses. "Your Majesty," Captain Vex said, approaching with a scroll. "The tracking spell confirms it. The crown's signature emanates from the third floor." Dax's eyes lifted, and for one heart-stopping moment, Lyric could have sworn he looked directly at her hiding spot. "How did they find me so fast?" she thought frantically. The crown had anti-tracking wards woven into its very metal. She'd been assured the wards. Of course, the Ashenheart crown didn't just accept wards, it remembered them. Every touch, every attempt to conceal it, only made it call louder to its rightful bearer. She'd been broadcasting her location since the moment she'd touched it. "Search every room," Dax ordered. "The thief is still inside. I can feel it." Lyric's mind raced. She couldn't go down, guards blocked every exit. She couldn't stay, they'd find her within minutes. The window was 4 stories up, with nothing but hard stone below. Her eyes fell on the crown. She could throw it down to them, claim she'd found it, play ignorant, but they'd still question her, and her face was too well known in certain circles. Someone would recognize her eventually. Someone would remember the Silverpaw pack and put the pieces together. No. If she was going down, she'd go down fighting. Or running. Lyric grabbed the crown, shoved it into her leather satchel, and moved to the window. The adjacent building was 8 feet away. A jump she'd made dozens of times before, but never with guards watching. Never with an Alpha King's full attention focused on this very street. The door to her apartment burst open just as she climbed onto the windowsill. "There," someone shouted. Lyric didn't look back. She leaped. Minen. For one weightless moment, she flew through the night air, the city sprawling beneath her, freedom just 8 feet away. Then strong hands caught her mid-jump, yanking her backward with supernatural strength. She slammed into a solid chest, an arm banding around her waist like an iron shackle. "Gotcha!" A deep voice rumbled against her ear. Lyric twisted, looked up, and her world tilted. Dax Ashenheart had caught her himself. Had moved with alpha speed to intercept her jump, scaling the wall in seconds to reach her window. And now, pressed against him, trapped in his arms, she finally understood what her wolf had been trying to tell her all along. His pupils dilated, his grip tightened, and something primal and possessive flashed through those storm-gray eyes. "You," he breathed, and it wasn't a question, it was a revelation. They dragged Lyric to the palace in chains. Not ordinary chains. These were forged from the same shadow steel as the crown, designed to suppress shifter strength and prevent transformation. They burned against her wrists like frozen fire. Dax had said nothing during the journey, hadn't even looked at her, but she'd felt his gaze like a physical weight, burning into her back as his guards hauled her through the pre-dawn streets. Now she stood in the throne room, surrounded by guards, while the royal court assembled. Word had spread fast. The crown thief had been captured. Nobles in silk robes and sleep-tousled hair filled the galleries, eager to witness justice. The throne sat empty, its cushioned seat mocking in its vacancy. Without the crown, Dax couldn't formally hold court. A nice irony, Lyric thought bitterly. "Bring her forward," came Dax's voice from behind her. She was pushed to the center of the room, forced to her knees on cold marble. Only then did she look up. Dax stood before his throne, not sitting because he couldn't, not without the crown. His jaw was tight, eyes hard. The man who'd shown kindness to children and slipped coins to the poor was gone. This was the Alpha King, and she had committed the ultimate transgression. "Your name," he demanded. Lyric lifted her chin. "Does it matter?" "It matters to me." Something in his tone made her pause. Not anger. Something else. Something that made her wolf whine and press against her ribs. "Lyric," she said finally. "Lyric Silverpaw." A murmur rippled through the court. The name Silverpaw carried weight, even 15 years after the rebellion. "Silverpaw," Dax repeated, his expression unreadable. "The pack that your father slaughtered," Lyric finished. "Yes, that one." Before Dax could respond, the massive doors opened again. A woman entered, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop. She was tall, elegant, with silver white hair braided in an intricate crown and eyes like chips of ice. Her gown was the color of fresh blood, and power radiated from her like heat from a forge. "Lady Seraphine," Dax said, tension creeping into his voice. "This is a closed court session." "Is it?" Seraphine's smile was sharp as glass. "How unfortunate. I was so hoping to witness the capture of the infamous crown thief." Her gaze slid to Lyric with calculating interest. Such a bold little wolf. To think she walked among us all this time. Lyric's blood ran cold. She knew this woman, had seen her twice in the market, both times watching the palace with that same calculating expression. "Lady Seraphine is the high priestess of the Northern Sanctum," Dax explained, though his tone suggested he was speaking more for the court than for Lyric. "She's been consulting with the Crown Council on matters of magical security." "Indeed," Seraphine purred, circling Lyric like a predator. "And it seems my concerns were well-founded. If a common thief can steal the Ashenheart crown, what does that say about the strength of this throne?" "The thief has been caught," Dax said coldly. "The crown will be recovered." "Will it?" Seraphine stopped beside Lyric, one long finger lifting her chin. "Tell me, little wolf, where have you hidden it?" And Lyric jerked her head away. "Go to hell." Seraphine laughed, the sound like breaking ice. "Spirit, I like that. Your Majesty, might I suggest a more persuasive approach to interrogation? The Northern Sanctum has methods for extracting truth from even the most stubborn subjects. Icaningus like Siomaris." "No," Dax said sharply. "She'll be questioned according to kingdom law." "Kingdom law," Seraphine repeated thoughtfully. "How quaint. And while you observe your precious laws, the crown remains missing. Every hour it's absent, your authority weakens. The packs sense it. Your enemies sharpen their blades." She turned to address the assembled court. "Perhaps what we need isn't just recovery of the crown, but a demonstration of strength. A reminder that the Ashenheart line will not be challenged." "What are you suggesting?" Lord Chancellor Hadrian asked from the gallery. "A public execution," Seraphine said simply. "At dawn tomorrow. Make an example of her." The court erupted in murmurs of agreement. Lyric's heart hammered, but she kept her face blank. Dax's jaw tightened. "The sentence will be decided after proper trial and while you deliberate," Seraphine interrupted smoothly, "your throne sits empty. How long before the packs interpret mercy as weakness?" She moved closer to Dax, her voice dropping to a purr that somehow carried through the entire room. "You need the crown back, Your Majesty. I can help you get it. My methods are unconventional, but effective." Lyric watched something flicker across Dax's face. Distrust, wariness, but also desperation. He needed that crown. Without it, every day his rule grew more tenuous. "I'll consider your counsel," he said finally. Seraphine smiled, victorious. "Wise choice, Your Majesty." After all, her eyes found Lyric's "some crimes deserve special punishment." As guards hauled Lyric away to the dungeons, She caught one last glimpse of Dax. He stood rigid before his empty throne, watching her go, and in his eyes she saw something that terrified her more than Seraphine's threats: conflict, hunger, recognition, and beneath it all, the unmistakable pull of a mate bond beginning to form. The dungeon cell was exactly what Lyric expected: cold stone, iron bars, a thin mat that passed for a bed. She'd seen worse during her years with the Resistance. At least here, she was alone. Or so she thought. "You should have run further," a voice said from the shadows. Lyric spun. A figure materialized from the corner, a young woman, perhaps 19, with copper-red hair and eyes that glowed faintly amber in the darkness. "Relax. I'm a friend." The girl held up her hands. "Name's Zephyr. I'm with the Resistance. They sent me to check on you." "How did you get in here? Please. These dungeons are old. Plenty of ways in if you know where to look." Zephyr crouched beside her. "We heard about the capture. The whole city's talking about it. So where's the crown?" Lyric hesitated, then sighed. "Hidden. Safe. They won't find it without me." "Good, because Seraphine wants it badly." Zephyr's expression darkened. "She's not what she pretends to be, Lyric. The High Priestess act? That's a cover." "For what?" "She's a witch. A powerful one. Been moving through the territories for months, insinuating herself into positions of power." Zephyr leaned closer. 3 kingdoms in the east have fallen in the last 2 years. In each one, she appeared as an advisor, gained the ruler's trust, and then she drew a finger across her throat. Lyric's blood chilled. Dax is her next target. She's been poisoning him slowly, weakening his alpha aura. Haven't you noticed? He looks tired, moves slower than he should. That's not stress. That's dark magic. Why tell me this? Because you're the only one who can stop her. Zephyr grabbed her shoulders. The mate bond, Lyric. We all felt it when he caught you. You're his true mate. That's impossible. I'm the daughter of rebels? So what? The bond doesn't care about politics. Zephyr's voice grew urgent. If you complete the bond, his strength will return. He'll be protected from her magic. But you have to act fast. If she's planning something big, and it involves your execution. Lyric shook her head. Even if what you're saying is true, he'd never accept me. I stole his crown. I'm everything he should hate. Maybe. But I saw how he looked at you in that throne room. Zephyr stood. The question is, are you brave enough to bet everything on that look? She vanished back into the shadows, leaving Lyric alone with her thoughts. For the first time in 15 years, Lyric let herself remember that night. Really remember it. She'd been 13, celebrating the Harvest Festival with her pack. The Silverpaws had been powerful once, led by her father, Alpha Ronin. They'd opposed King Aldrich Ashenheart's expansion into their territories, refused to bend the knee. The attack came at midnight. Royal guards and mercenaries, armed with silver and fire. Her father had tried to negotiate, but Aldrich wanted submission, not diplomacy. Lyric remembered hiding in the root cellar with her younger brother, Cassian, remembered the screams, the scent of smoke and blood, her mother's final howl as she died protecting the pack. When dawn came, the Silverpaw territory was ash, her father dead, her mother dead, 37 pack members slaughtered. And Cassian, her hands clenched. Cassian had survived, 8 years old, terrified, traumatized. They'd fled together, lived in the woods for months before the Resistance found them. But Cassian had never recovered. The trauma broke something inside him. 5 years ago, he'd shifted into his wolf form and never shifted back. Now he ran wild in the Thornwood forest, more beast than boy, and Lyric hadn't been able to reach him in over a year. That's why she'd stolen the crown. Not just for revenge. For leverage. The Resistance had promised her that with the crown, they could force Dax to issue pardons, to restore the scattered packs, to give her the resources to find healers who might bring Cassian back. It had been a beautiful plan. Now she was in a cell, the crown hidden, facing execution, and somehow bound by fate to the son of the man who'd destroyed her life. The universe has a sick sense of humor, she muttered. But Zephyr's words echoed in her mind. He looked at you. And despite everything, the chains, the cell, the death sentence, Lyric couldn't forget that moment in the throne room when their eyes had met, and she'd seen not just recognition, but hunger. The mate bond was real, which meant she had a choice to make: die for her revenge, or live for something she'd never let herself want. Her wolf stirred, finally quiet, after years of restless agony. Choose him, it whispered. Choose us. Lyric didn't have to wait long for her answer. 2 hours before dawn, footsteps echoed down the dungeon corridor. Not the heavy tread of guards, but something lighter, more deliberate. Seraphine appeared at the bars, her blood-red gown replaced by practical black robes. In her hands, she carried a silver goblet that steamed with something that smelled like rotted flowers and bitter almonds. Awake, little wolf? Good. She smiled. We have much to discuss. I have nothing to say to you. Power and Dadav says. Oh, I think you do. Seraphine produced a key. Where had she gotten that? And unlocked the cell door. 2 guards followed her in, grabbing Lyric's arms before she could react. The king refused my suggestion of enhanced interrogation, Seraphine said conversationally, circling Lyric. Too noble, too constrained by his precious laws. But what Dax doesn't know won't hurt him. Yet, she held up the goblet. This is a truth serum of my own design, rather more potent than the legal version. You'll tell me where the crown is, and then, her smile widened, you'll die from the unfortunate side effect. So tragic. The thief expired before revealing the crown's location. Lyric struggled, but the guard's grips were iron. Dax will know you did this. Will he? I'll make sure to comfort him in his grief. Power. The poor king, so weakened by the crown's absence, so vulnerable to suggestion. Seraphine's eyes gleamed. Power. By the time he realizes what's happening, it will be far too late. She brought the goblet to Lyric's lips. The liquid burned her mouth, forcing its way down her throat. Lyric choked, tasted blood, felt her vision blur. Now, Seraphine purred. Where is the crown? The words tried to claw their way out of Lyric's throat. She bit her tongue, tasted more blood, fought against the compulsion with every ounce of will. Her voice cracked. Yes? Seraphine leaned closer. The goblet, Lyric gasped, is poisoned. She twisted suddenly, slamming her head into the nearest guard's nose. He released her with a curse. In that split second of freedom, Lyric grabbed the goblet from Seraphine's hand and threw its contents directly in the witch's face. Seraphine shrieked, stumbling backward as the serum burned her skin. The guards lunged for Lyric, but she was already moving, chains and all, pure survival instinct, driving her toward the cell door. She made it 3 steps before her legs gave out. The serum in her system was working, shutting down her muscles, her will. She collapsed in the corridor, vision, swimming. Through the haze, she saw Seraphine wiping her face, her beautiful features twisted with rage. You little... What is going on here? The voice cut through everything like a blade. Dax's voice. Lyric's vision cleared just enough to see him striding down the corridor, 2 guards flanking him. He took in the scene: Seraphine's burned face, the spilled goblet. Lyric collapsed on the floor, and his expression turned to stone. Seraphine. Explain. Your Majesty. She attacked me. With what? Dax's voice was dangerously soft. She's in chains. She's locked in a cell. How exactly did a defenseless prisoner attack you? Seraphine's mouth opened and closed. For the first time, Lyric saw genuine fear cross the witch's face. Dax crouched beside Lyric, his hand going to her throat to check her pulse. The moment his skin touched hers, electricity arced between them. His pupils dilated, and she saw his wolf surface, turning his eyes pure gold. She's been poisoned, he growled. With what? I brought her water, Seraphine tried. She must have. Don't. Dax stood slowly, turning to face the witch. Don't insult my intelligence. I can smell the dark magic on you from here. He gestured to his guards. Arrest Lady Seraphine. Charge. Attempted murder of a royal prisoner. Your Majesty, you can't be serious. Try me. His alpha voice reverberated through the dungeon, making every guard stand straighter. You entered my dungeons without permission. You brought an illegal substance. You attempted to harm a prisoner under my protection. Protection? Seraphine laughed shrilly. She's a thief. A traitor. She doesn't deserve. She's mine. The words came out as a growl, possessive and absolute. And you just tried to kill my mate. Silence crashed through the dungeon. Even Seraphine looked shocked. Dax didn't wait for her response. He bent and lifted Lyric into his arms, cradling her against his chest despite her chains. The shadow steel burned him. She could smell his skin scorching, but he didn't flinch. Call the healers, he ordered, and someone tell me what was in that serum. Now, as he carried her out of the dungeon, Lyric's vision began to fade. But before darkness took her, she heard him whisper against her hair. Stay with me, little thief. I'm not done with you yet. And despite everything, the poison, the pain, the impossibility of it all, Lyric's wolf purred in contentment. Mate, it whispered. Ours. For once, Lyric didn't disagree. Lyric woke to silk sheets and morning light. For a confused moment, she thought she'd died and somehow ended up in the afterlife. Then pain lanced through her body, and she knew she was very much alive. Don't move. Dax's voice came from beside the bed. The healers said the poison will work through your system, but you need rest. She turned her head slowly, because even that hurt, and found him sitting in a chair pulled close to the bed. He looked exhausted. Dark circles under his eyes, his hair disheveled, like he'd been there all night. Where? My private chambers? He said. The healers couldn't treat you properly in the dungeons, and I wasn't about to leave you there after what happened. Lyric tried to process this. She was in the Alpha King's bed, in his rooms, with him watching over her like. The crown, she said suddenly, trying to sit up. You can't seriously think I'll tell you where it is just because you. I don't care about the crown. His voice was flat, exhausted. Right now, I care about keeping you alive. That stopped her. She stared at him, trying to read the expression in those storm-gray eyes. Why? You know why. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. I felt it the moment I caught you. The bond. You're my mate, Lyric. That's impossible. It. He held out his hand, palm up. Touch me. Tell me you don't feel it. She shouldn't. Every instinct screamed at her to refuse, but her hand moved of its own accord, placing her palm against his. Power? The world ignited. Power surged between them, hot and electric. and undeniable. Lyric gasped, her wolf surging to the surface with a joy she'd never felt. Dax's eyes flashed gold, his canines lengthening as his wolf responded in kind. For one perfect moment, they were simply two wolves recognizing their mate, politics and crowns and revenge forgotten. Then Lyric jerked her hand back, the loss of contact almost painful. "This doesn't change anything," she said, but her voice shook. "Your father killed my family. You sit on a throne built from their ashes. I know." Dax's voice was rough. "I know what my father did. I've spent 5 years trying to undo his damage, trying to make peace with the scattered packs. But some wounds don't heal, do they?" He stood, moving to the window. "I was 19 when he died. I inherited a kingdom fractured by war, packs that hated us, territories in rebellion. Every day has been a battle just to hold things together. That's not my problem. Isn't it?" He turned back to her. "You want revenge, Lyric. I understand that. But where does it end? You take the crown, the kingdom falls into chaos, and more people die, more families destroyed. Is that what your parents would have wanted?" Lyric's hands clenched in the silk sheets. "Don't you dare— I'm not defending what happened," Dax interrupted. "I'm saying I'm trying to be better, to build something different. And I need—" He stopped, jaw tightening. "I need you. You need the crown. I need my mate." The intensity in his voice made her breath catch. "The crown is metal and magic. You are everything." For 3 days, Dax kept her in his chambers. Official word spread that the prisoner required medical isolation. The truth was more complicated. Lyric was healing, yes, but Dax seemed unable to leave her alone for more than an hour at a time. He brought her meals himself, refused to let servants enter, sat with her while she ate. They talked. About everything and nothing. He told her about the weight of the crown, the impossible choices of kingship. She told him about life in the resistance, the families she'd helped reunite. Neither mentioned the stolen crown. Or Seraphine, who'd been confined to quarters pending investigation. On the 3rd night, as Lyric sat by the fire wrapped in borrowed robes, Dax brought her something unexpected. A tattered book, its pages yellow with age. "What's this?" "Your father's journal," Dax said quietly. "I found it among my father's things after he died. I think my father kept it as a trophy, but it belongs to you." Lyric's hands trembled as she opened it. Her father's handwriting stared back at her, achingly familiar. "The king demands submission, but we are not dogs to be called to heel. We are wolves. We are free." Tears blurred her vision. She clutched the journal to her chest, a sob breaking free. Dax knelt beside her chair. "I'm sorry, Lyric. I'm sorry for what he did. I'm sorry I can't undo it." "Then what can you do?" she whispered. His hand cupped her face, thumb brushing away tears. "I can promise you that it ends with me. No more massacres. No more slaughtered packs. I can give you justice, if you'll let me." "How?" "Help me unite the territories. Not through conquest, but through genuine alliance. Help me build something worth leading." His voice dropped. "Be my queen." Lyric's breath caught. "You're asking me to mate with me, rule beside me, transform this kingdom into what it should have been all along." His eyes burned with intensity. "I know it's asking everything. I know I don't deserve it. But the bond doesn't lie, Lyric. We're meant for this." She should refuse, should spit in his face and demand to be returned to her cell, should hold onto her rage with both hands. But when she looked at him, really looked, she saw not the king who sat on her enemy's throne, but the man who'd carried her from the dungeons despite the chains burning his skin, who'd stayed by her bedside for 3 days, who'd returned her father's journal when he could have destroyed it, who looked at her like she was his salvation. "The crown," she said finally. "I'll tell you where it is, but only if you agree to my terms. Name them. Full pardons for the Silverpaw survivors, territory restored to the scattered packs, and resources to find my brother Cassian and bring him home." Done. Just like that? Just like that. Dax's hand slid to the back of her neck, drawing her closer. "I told you, Lyric. I don't care about the crown. I care about you. You should care about both," she murmured, her lips inches from his. "Because I hid it somewhere you'll never find without me." "Where?" She smiled against his mouth. "In your throne. I broke in the night before the heist, carved out the seat cushion, and sealed it inside. You've been sitting on it for 3 days." Dax stared at her for a long moment. Then he laughed a real laugh, surprised and genuine. "You hid my crown in my throne." Seemed poetic. "You're magnificent." He closed the distance between them, capturing her mouth in a kiss that ignited every nerve. The mate bond sang between them, pleasure and power intertwining, until Lyric couldn't tell where she ended and he began. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dax pressed his forehead to hers. "Stay," he whispered. "Not as a prisoner, as mine." And for the first time in 15 years, Lyric let herself want something besides revenge. "Yours," she breathed, "but you're mine too." His smile was fierce and possessive. "Always." God. For 2 weeks, Lyric lived in a dream. Dax retrieved the crown from its hiding place. She'd been right, no one had thought to look there, and his full power returned immediately. With it came a transformation in the kingdom. He began implementing the reforms they'd discussed, reaching out to scattered packs, offering genuine reconciliation. And every night, he came to her, not to his bed, not yet. The final claiming remained incomplete, a line they hadn't crossed. But the touches grew bolder, the kisses deeper, the bond between them strengthening with every shared look. Lyric had never been happier, which is why she should have known it couldn't last. The summons came on a cold morning. Lord Chancellor Hadrian himself appeared at Dax's chambers, his expression grave. "Your Majesty, the council requires your immediate presence, and the prisoner." "Lyric is not a prisoner," Dax said sharply. "Nevertheless, her presence is demanded. It concerns a matter of state importance." In the council chamber, Lyric found herself facing 12 stern-looking nobles, all wearing variations of the same disapproving expression. At the head of the table sat Dax, crowned once more, his face carefully neutral. "This assembly has been called," Hadrian announced, "to address the matter of His Majesty's association with the criminal Lyric Silverpaw." "There is no matter to address," Dax said coldly. "She is my mate." "Unconfirmed," Counselor Meredith interjected. "The bond has not been completed. Until the claiming bite is given and accepted, any attachment remains unofficial." "I fail to see how this concerns the council." "It concerns us greatly, Your Majesty." Duke Corvin stood, his voice heavy with false regret. "News of your alliance with a known rebel has spread throughout the territories. Several packs are threatening to withdraw their support. The northern clans have sent word that they view this as a betrayal of your father's legacy." Lyric's stomach dropped. She saw where this was going. "Let them complain," Dax said. "I will not abandon my mate for politics. And not even if it means civil war?" Corvin produced a scroll, laying it on the table. "The Eastern Alliance has issued an ultimatum. Either you denounce the Silverpaw girl and reaffirm your commitment to your father's policies, or they will secede from the Moonborn territories entirely. That's half our military strength. 9. Hadrian added quietly. Half our resources, Your Majesty. Without them, the kingdom will fracture. Dax's jaw tightened. This is orchestrated. Someone is manipulating. Does it matter? Meredith interrupted. Orchestrated or not, the threat is real. We are on the brink of collapse, and the cause is your attachment to a girl who stole your crown. I returned it, Lyric said, her voice cutting through the room. I fulfilled my part of the bargain. After you were caught, Corvin sneered. After you had no choice, and now you use the mate bond to manipulate our king into destroying everything his father built. His father built a kingdom on corpses, Lyric shot back. Maybe it deserves to fall. The room erupted in outrage. Guards moved forward, but Dax held up a hand, his alpha command freezing everyone in place. Enough. His voice was quiet but absolute. Everyone leave, now, except Lyric. The counselors filed out, shooting dark looks at Lyric as they went. When the door closed, the silence was suffocating. They're going to make you choose, Lyric said quietly. Me or the kingdom. There is no choice. You are my mate. Dax. No. He crossed to her, gripping her shoulders. I don't care what they threaten. I don't care if every pack in the territories rebels. I will not give you up. Even if it means war? Even if thousands die because you chose me? Lyric's voice cracked. I can't be responsible for that. I won't. Then what are you saying? She forced herself to meet his eyes, even as her heart shattered. I'm saying I won't complete the bond. I'm saying I release you from any obligation to me. No, Lyric, no. It's the only way. Tears spilled down her cheeks. You said you wanted to be better than your father. Prove it. Put the kingdom first. I am putting the kingdom first. His voice rose, anguished. A kingdom led by a king and queen who actually care about their people, who can unite the packs through genuine partnership that's worth fighting for. Not if the fighting destroys everything. She stepped back, breaking contact. I'm the daughter of rebels, Dax. That's all I'll ever be to them. And as long as I'm here, they'll use me as an excuse to tear you down. So you're just giving up? Running away? I'm setting you free. She turned toward the door. Find someone they'll accept. Make your alliances. Build your peace. Just do it without me. Lyric, please. She stopped at the door, hand on the handle, unable to look back. I love you. That's why I'm leaving. And before her courage could fail, before she could turn around and take back every word, Lyric walked out of his life. She made it halfway down the corridor before she collapsed against the wall, sobs tearing from her throat. Her wolf howled in agony, the incomplete mate bond screaming at her to return, to claim, to complete what they'd started. But Lyric had learned long ago that love sometimes meant sacrifice, even if that sacrifice was her own happiness. 3 weeks passed in a blur of gray misery. Lyric returned to her small apartment above the apothecary, but everything felt hollow. Food tasted like ash. Sleep brought only nightmares of storm-gray eyes and a smile she'd never see again. The resistance wanted her back, praised her for her sacrifice, told her she'd done the right thing. She couldn't bring herself to care. News from the palace filtered through the city like poison. Dax had agreed to the council's demands. Lady Seraphine, her charges mysteriously dropped due to insufficient evidence, had been reinstated as an advisor. And most devastating of all, preparations had begun for a formal alliance marriage. The bride-to-be, Princess Isla of the Eastern Alliance, beautiful, politically connected, and everything a queen should be. The wedding was set for the next full moon. 4 days away. Lyric told herself she didn't care, told herself she'd made the right choice, told herself the crushing pain in her chest would eventually fade. She was lying. On the third night, Zephyr appeared at her window, her face grim. "You need to come with me. Now." "I'm not going back to." "It's not about the resistance." Zephyr grabbed her arm. "It's about Dax. He's dying." The world tilted. "What?" "Seraphine. She's been poisoning him again. Stronger this time. Without the mate bond to protect him, he's vulnerable." Zephyr's eyes were desperate. "He's fading fast, Lyric. Days, maybe hours. And the worst part? He doesn't even care. It's like he's given up." "Why are you telling me this? I can't." "You're his mate. You're the only one who can save him." Zephyr shook her. "I know you love him. I know you left to protect him. But he's dying, Lyric. And when he's gone, Seraphine will take the throne, marry whoever she wants, and everything you sacrificed for will be for nothing." Lyric's mind raced. If what Zephyr said was true, if Seraphine was truly behind this, "How do I know you're not lying?" "Because I'm in love with someone too," Zephyr said quietly. "And I know what you're going through. Please, Lyric, at least come see him. If I'm wrong, you can walk away. But if I'm right..." Lyric didn't need to hear more. She was already grabbing her cloak. They entered the palace through the servant passages. Zephyr knew them all and made their way to the royal wing. Guards were sparse, oddly so. Like someone had deliberately thinned their numbers. Dax's chambers were dark when they entered. A single candle burned by the bedside, casting long shadows across the room. And there, in the massive four-poster bed, lay Dax. Lyric's heart stopped. He looked like a ghost of himself. His skin had taken on a grayish pallor, his breathing shallow and labored. Dark veins spiderwebbed across his neck and arms, the unmistakable mark of shadow poison. "Dax," she breathed, rushing to his side. His eyes fluttered open, unfocused. "Lyric? No, you're not real. Just another dream." "I'm real." She grabbed his hand, squeezing. The spark of the mate bond was still there, but weak, flickering. "What happened? Who did this to you? Does it matter?" His voice was barely a whisper. "You were right to leave. I couldn't protect you. Couldn't protect anyone." "That's the poison talking. Dax, stay with me." "I tried so hard," he continued, as if he hadn't heard her. "Tried to be better, but maybe some legacies can't be escaped. Maybe I was always meant to fail." "No, Dax, listen to me." A slow clap echoed through the room. Lyric spun to find Seraphine standing in the doorway, a triumphant smile on her face. "How touching," the witch purred. "The little thief returns to her dying king. Rather like a tragedy, isn't it?" "You did this," Lyric snarled, her wolf surging forward. "You poisoned him." "Guilty." Seraphine stepped into the room, magic crackling around her fingers. Though it was remarkably easy, pose of four. Without the mate bond's protection, he was vulnerable. And once you so helpfully removed yourself from the picture, well, she shrugged. Nature took its course. "I'll kill you." "Will you?" Seraphine's smile widened. "I think not. You see, I've taken precautions this time," she gestured. And guards poured into the room, not regular guards, but mercenaries with dead eyes and silver chains. Lyric found herself surrounded, those same shadow steel chains from the dungeon clasped around her wrists before she could shift. "Perfect timing, really," Seraphine continued conversationally. "You arriving just as dear Dax breathes his last. So tragic. The stress of your rejection killed him, the kingdom will say. And you, overcome with guilt, took your own life. You won't get away with this. What? I already have, darling. Seraphine moved to the bed, running a finger down Dax's face. He didn't even flinch. By dawn, I'll be the grieving advisor who tried to save him. The council will need strong leadership in this crisis. And I've already secured their support. Her eyes glittered with malice. Your mate dies, his kingdom falls, and I get everything I wanted. It's poetic, really. Xiomara's. She turned to her mercenaries. Take her to the dungeons, the deep ones, where no one will hear her scream. I'll deal with her after the king's funeral. As they dragged Lyric away, she twisted back toward the bed, toward Dax's fading form. Fight, she screamed. Dax, please, fight! But he didn't move, didn't respond. The light in his eyes had already dimmed to almost nothing, and as the dungeon door slammed shut behind her, Lyric realized with terrible clarity that she'd made the worst mistake of her life. She'd walked away from her mate to save his kingdom. Now both would be destroyed. The deep dungeons were nothing like the cells above. No windows, no light except what filtered down through cracks in the ancient stone. No sound but the drip of water and the occasional scurry of rats. Lyric had been here for hours, or days. Time lost meaning in the dark. The shadow steel chains had been replaced with something worse, silver mixed with shadow magic, designed to suppress not just her wolf, but her will itself. Every breath was agony. Every thought felt like wading through tar. Seraphine hadn't visited. Didn't need to. Lyric was already dying slowly, the incomplete mate bond tearing her apart from the inside as Dax faded above her. She could feel him slipping away. The bond, weak as it was, carried his pain, his surrender. He was giving up, and she was helpless to stop it. I'm sorry, she whispered to the darkness. I'm so sorry. A sound made her lift her head. Footsteps, but not the heavy tread of guards. Lighter, familiar. Lyric? Zephyr's voice. Gods, what did she do to you? Zephyr? Lyric's voice cracked. How did you— Later. I don't have much time. Zephyr knelt beside her, producing lockpicks and what looked like a vial of something glowing. This should counteract the silver binding. It won't last long, but it'll give you a chance. A chance for what? Dax is dying. The kingdom is falling apart. Seraphine has won. And— Not yet, she hasn't. Zephyr worked on the chains, her hands moving with practiced speed. The resistance has been gathering intelligence. We know what she is, Lyric, and we know how to stop her. How? She's a soul eater. She drains life force to maintain her power and her youth. She's done it to 3 kings already. But there's a weakness if her victim is protected by a complete mate bond. Her magic can't touch them. Zephyr looked up, eyes fierce. You have to complete the bond with Dax. It's the only way to save him. I can't. I already rejected. You didn't reject the bond. You walked away. There's a difference. The chains fell away. Zephyr pressed the vial into Lyric's hands. Drink this. It'll restore your strength temporarily. Then you need to get to Dax and finish what you started. Seraphine will stop me. Then fight her. Zephyr stood, helping Lyric to her feet. You're a Silverpaw, Lyric. Your family didn't bow to tyrants, and neither will you. Now go save your mate before it's too late. The vial burned going down, but strength flooded Lyric's body almost immediately. Her wolf surged forward, no longer suppressed, and for the first time in weeks, she felt whole. Zephyr. Go. I'll handle the guards. You handle the witch. Lyric didn't waste time arguing. She shifted mid-stride, her wolf form tearing free with a joy she'd forgotten. The dungeon door shattered under her weight, and she was running, racing through corridors and upstairs, following the pull of the mate bond toward Dax, toward her future, if she wasn't already too late. She burst into his chambers to find Seraphine standing over Dax's bed, her hands glowing with dark magic as she drew the last of his life force into herself. No! Lyric shifted back, throwing herself between them. Seraphine stumbled back, shocked. How did you, quote, doesn't matter. Lyric positioned herself over Dax's body, protective, feral. You don't touch him again. Foolish girl. Seraphine's hands crackled with power. You're too late. He's already gone. I've taken everything. Not everything. Lyric looked down at Dax's face, pale and still. But there beneath her hand on his chest she felt it, a faint heartbeat. Still fighting, still holding on. For her. He's still alive, she whispered. Which means there's still time. Time for what? Lyric bared her teeth in a smile that was all wolf. To finish what we started. She bent over Dax, her mouth finding the curve of his neck. The claiming mark she should have given weeks ago. Her canines lengthened, and without hesitation, she bit down. Power exploded through the room. The mate bond, dormant and incomplete, roared to life with the force of a hurricane. Golden light erupted from where their skin connected, washing away the shadows, burning away the poison. Dax's eyes flew open, no longer gray but blazing amber. His hand shot up, gripping the back of Lyric's neck as he returned the bite with one of his own. The bond completed with a snap that echoed through their souls. Two halves, finally, perfectly whole. Beneath them, the shadows screamed. Seraphine's stolen power, faced with the pure force of a true mate bond, shattered like glass. The life force she'd drained from Dax reversed, flooding back into him in a rush of light and strength. No! Seraphine shrieked. This isn't possible. But it was. And as Dax rose from the bed, his full alpha power restored and amplified by the bond, Seraphine finally understood what she'd underestimated. Not just a king, not just a mate bond, but two wolves who'd chosen each other despite everything. And that choice had made them unbreakable. Dawn broke over Emberfell to find the palace in chaos. Word had spread overnight. The king was dead. No, wait, the king lived. There was fighting in the throne room. Lady Seraphine had been revealed as a traitor. By the time the sun fully rose, a crowd had gathered in the palace square, nobles and commoners alike demanding answers. They got them. The throne room doors burst open, and guards dragged Seraphine forward in chains. Not shadow steel this time, but pure iron, inscribed with runes that glowed white-hot against her skin. She looked diminished somehow, her beauty faded, her power broken. Behind her walked Dax, fully restored, the crown once again on his head. But this time, he wasn't alone. Lyric walked beside him, wearing not servant's clothes but a gown of deep midnight blue, silver embroidery catching the light. Her hair was unbound, silver eyes blazing with confidence, and on her neck, visible to everyone, was the claiming mark of a completed mate bond. The crowd erupted in murmurs, gasps, some cheers, some protests. Dax raised his hand, and silence fell immediately. His alpha command had returned in full force, amplified by the bond. People of Emberfell, he began, his voice carrying across the square. You've been told many lies. Today, you'll hear the truth. He gestured to Seraphine. This woman has been poisoning me for months, weakening me, attempting to seize my throne. She is not a priestess. She's a soul eater who has murdered 3 kings before me. More gasps. The crowd pressed forward, eager to see the witch who'd infiltrated their kingdom. She would have succeeded, Dax continued, if not for my mate. He turned to Lyric, and the tenderness in his expression was unmistakable. Lyric Silverpaw, daughter of Alpha Ronin, saved my life. Not once, but 3 times. She is a thief, yes, power pawn. But she stole only to protect her family, to fight against injustice. He addressed the crowd again. My father committed terrible crimes in the name of peace. He slaughtered the Silverpaw Pack for refusing to submit. He created the very rebellion he claimed to fight against. His voice hardened. I will not repeat his mistakes. Starting today, all packs will be offered genuine alliance, not forced submission. All surviving Silverpaws will receive full pardons and restored territories. Your Majesty, Duke Corvin interrupted from the noble gallery. This is madness. The Eastern Alliance will never accept the Eastern Alliance. Lyric cut in, her voice clear and strong, was being manipulated by Seraphine's agents. I have proof. She held up documents evidence Zephyr and the Resistance had gathered. Messages showing how she orchestrated the threats, the ultimatums. She manufactured the crisis to force us apart. She stepped forward, addressing not just the nobles, but the commoners in the square. I'm the daughter of rebels. I stole the crown. I should be your enemy, but I'm also a woman who loves your king, who wants to see this kingdom thrive, who believes we can be better than our history. The bond doesn't lie, someone shouted from the crowd. An older woman, pack markers visible on her arms. If the moon chose them as mates, who are we to refuse? Other voices joined her. Not all, there were still protests, still anger. But enough voices rose in support to create a swell of acceptance. Dax raised his hand again. I know this is unprecedented. I know many of you have concerns, but I'm asking you to trust me, to trust us. He took Lyric's hand, their fingers intertwining. Give us a chance to prove that love can be stronger than hate, that forgiveness can build what vengeance only destroys. From the shadows of the noble gallery, a figure emerged. Old Alpha Gareth of the Western Pax, a survivor of Dax's father's wars. I lost my son to your father's blades, he said, his voice carrying weight. I have every reason to hate the Ashenheart name. He looked between Dax and Lyric. But I see something in you both that I never saw in your father, your majesty. I see hope. He knelt, fist to heart in the ancient sign of fealty. The Western Pax will support this union. One by one, other alphas followed. Not all Duke Corvin and his faction remained standing, faces tight with disapproval. But enough bent the knee to show that change was possible. Seraphine laughed, the sound broken and bitter. How touching. You think this changes anything? You think a pretty love story will hold a kingdom together? No, Dax said quietly. I think hard work, genuine reform, and leaders who actually care about their people will hold it together. The love story is just a bonus. He nodded to the guards. Take her to the deepest cell. She'll stand trial for her crimes. As they dragged Seraphine away, still screaming threats, Dax turned to Lyric. The crowd, the nobles, the politics, all of it faded, as he looked at her with everything he felt written plainly on his face. I have one more announcement, he said, loud enough for all to hear. In 3 days' time, there will be a coronation. Not just mine, but my queen's. Lyric Silverpaw will be crowned Queen of the Moonborn Territories, and together, we will forge a new future. The crowd erupted, some in cheers, some in protest, but all in passion. Change had come to Emberfell, whether they were ready or not. Lyric squeezed Dax's hand. Are you sure about this? There's still so much opposition. Let them oppose, he murmured, low enough that only she could hear. I'm done choosing duty over love. I'm done sacrificing happiness for politics. He pulled her close, heedless of the watching crowd. You're mine, little thief. And I'm keeping you. Pow. Even though I stole your crown? Especially because you stole my crown. His smile was fierce. You were never going to be just a queen, Lyric. You were always going to be a revolution. And as he kissed her there in front of the assembled kingdom, the mate bond singing between them, Lyric finally understood. She'd started this journey wanting to steal a crown. She'd ended it, stealing a king's heart instead. And somehow, that was worth more than any kingdom. The 3 days before the coronation passed in a whirlwind. Seamstresses created a queen's wardrobe. Diplomats arrived from across the territories. The resistance, no longer operating in shadows, helped coordinate security and outreach to scattered packs. But the night before the ceremony, Zephyr burst into Lyric's chambers, her face ashen. We have a problem. A big one. Lyric looked up from the coronation speech she'd been reviewing. What now? Seraphine escaped. The words hit like a physical blow. How is that possible? She was in the deepest cell. She had help. 3 guards are dead, their throats torn out, and there's more. Zephyr handed her a blood-stained note. She left this. The message was written in something dark and viscous blood. Lyric realized with horror. You think you've won? You've merely delayed the inevitable. Meet me in the Thornwood at midnight. Come alone, or I'll kill every member of your precious resistance, starting with the youngest. You know I can do it. P.S. I believe you've been searching for someone? A boy lost in the woods? I found him first. Lyric's blood turned to ice. Cassian. She has Cassian. It's a trap, Zephyr said immediately. She wants to draw you out, separate you from Dax. I don't care. If there's even a chance my brother is alive. Lyric was already moving, grabbing weapons, pulling on practical clothes. Pie. You can't go alone. The mate bond if she kills you. It'll destroy Dax too. Close. Which is why you're not going to tell him until I'm already gone. Lyric gripped Zephyr's shoulders. Please. I need an hour. Just 1 hour to try to save Cassian. If I'm not back by dawn, tell Dax everything. He's going to kill me for this. Get in line. Lyric managed a tight smile. But my brother comes first. He's been lost for 5 years because I chose revenge over family. I won't make that mistake again. The Thornwood forest was ancient and wild, the trees so dense that even moonlight struggled to penetrate. Lyric moved in wolf form, faster and more agile, following Seraphine's scent deeper into the wilderness. She found her in a clearing lit by witchfire blue flames that cast eerie shadows across the trees. And there, trapped in a cage of pure silver, was a massive black wolf with silver eyes, Cassian. Brother, Lyric breathed, shifting back to human form. The wolf's eyes focused on her, and for a moment she saw recognition. Then it faded back to bestial blankness. He'd been feral too long. Touching reunion, Seraphine said, stepping from the shadows. She looked different, gaunt, desperate, the beauty entirely gone. Though I'm not sure he remembers you. Let him go. Your fight is with me. Oh, I intend to. Seraphine's smile was poison. But first, some ground rules. You're going to reject the mate bond with Dax. Publicly. Tomorrow at the coronation. Never. Then watch your brother die. Seraphine's hand glowed with dark magic, pointed at Cassian's cage. The silver is already burning him. How long do you think he'll last if I add hellfire to the mix? Cassian whimpered, his silver eyes finding Lyric's again, pleading. Lyric's mind raced. If she rejected the bond, Dax would be vulnerable again. Seraphine would kill him and take the throne. But if she refused, Cassian would die screaming. Why? She asked, stalling. Why do you want the throne so badly? You're immortal. You could go anywhere, do anything. Because I'm dying, Seraphine snarled. My power is fading. I need the Ashenheart crown's magic to sustain me. And I need Dax's life force to fuel the ritual that will bind it to me permanently. So take mine instead. The words were out before Lyric could stop them. Leave Dax alone. Leave Cassian alone. I'll give you whatever you need willingly. Seraphine's eyes gleamed. You'd sacrifice yourself? How noble. But your life force isn't strong enough. I need an alpha's power. She tilted her head. Although, a completed mate bond does create interesting possibilities. If I drain you, it would weaken him enough to finish the job. She raised her hand, magic crackling. This works out perfectly. Thank you for coming alone, little wolf. She didn't. Dax's voice cut through the clearing like a blade. He stepped from the trees, fully shifted to his alpha form. Massive, powerful, eyes blazing gold. Behind him came a dozen resistance fighters and royal guards, surrounding the clearing. How did you? Lyric started. You think I can't feel you through the bond? Dax's human voice emerged from his wolf throat, the alpha magic allowing speech. The moment you left the palace, I knew, and I followed. He turned to Seraphine. It's over. You're surrounded. Surrender and I'll grant you a quick death. Never. Seraphine's power exploded outward, blue fire engulfing the clearing. Guards screamed, falling back. The silver cage around Cassian began to glow white-hot. Lyric didn't think. She just moved, shifted mid-leap, and threw herself at the cage, her body shielding Cassian from the worst of the heat even as her fur began to burn. The pain was excruciating, but through the mate bond she felt Dax's strength pouring into her, sustaining her, keeping her conscious. Lyric, move! Dax roared, charging toward Seraphine. The witch met him with a blast of dark magic that should have killed him. But the mate bond protected him, Lyric's love acting as a shield even as she suffered. They were fighting together even separated, the bond making them stronger than they'd ever been alone. Seraphine realized it too late. As Dax's jaws closed around her throat, and Lyric's claws tore through the silver cage to free her brother, the witch finally understood what she'd never possessed. True power didn't come from stealing life. It came from choosing to share yours. Seraphine's scream cut off abruptly as Dax ended her. The blue fire died, the silver cage crumbled. And Cassian, sweet, lost Cassian, collapsed into Lyric's arms, finally shifting back to human form for the first time in 5 years. Lyric? His voice was hoarse, confused. Am I dreaming? No, little brother. She held him tight, tears streaming down her face. You're home. Finally home. Dax shifted back to human, immediately moving to Lyric's side. You're hurt. We need to get you to the healers. I'm fine. The bond. She looked up at him. You saved me again. We saved each other. He helped her stand, one arm supporting her, the other helping with Cassian. That's what mates do. As they emerged from the thornwood forest at dawn, the rising sun painting the sky gold and crimson, Lyric realized they'd finally done it. Defeated the villain, saved her brother, claimed each other completely. Now came the easy part, ruling a kingdom together. She almost laughed at the absurdity of it. But looking at Dax, seeing the love and determination in his eyes, she thought maybe, just maybe, they could actually pull it off. After all, they'd already accomplished the impossible. What was one more miracle? 3 months later, the coronation day dawned clear and bright. The palace square had been transformed into something magical. Thousands of flowers, banners from every pack in the territories, and a crowd so large it spilled into every street and alley. Lyric stood before a mirror in the royal dressing chambers, barely recognizing herself. The gown was stunning, silver and midnight blue, embroidered with wolves and stars, flowing like water. The crown that would soon rest on her head sat nearby, newly forged from moonstone and hope. "You look beautiful," Cassian said from the doorway. He'd recovered remarkably well, though nightmares still plagued him some nights. But he was here, whole, and that was what mattered. "I look terrified. Power. That too," he grinned, so much like the boy she remembered. "But you're going to be amazing. You already are." A knock at the door. Zephyr entered, wearing formal resistance attire. They were now official royal advisors on pack relations. "It's time. The ceremony is about to start." Lyric took a deep breath. "How does Dax look?" "Like a king, about to watch his mate become a queen. So, basically like he's won the lottery and can't believe his luck." Zephyr smiled. "Come on, let's go make history." The ceremony was held in the ancient Heart Grove, where the first alphas had been crowned centuries ago. Trees formed a natural cathedral, their branches woven together overhead. Every pack alpha stood in attendance, some still skeptical, others openly supportive. Dax stood at the altar in full royal regalia, the Ashenheart crown on his head. When Lyric entered, his face transformed pure joy and love and possessive pride. The High Priestess, a real one this time, carefully vetted, conducted the ceremony. Lyric knelt and felt the weight of the crown settle on her head. It was heavy, but not as heavy as the chains she'd once worn. "Rise, Queen Lyric of House Silverpaw," the priestess intoned, "united with House Ashenheart through the sacred mate bond." Lyric stood, turning to face the assembled crowd. For a moment, fear threatened to overwhelm her. She was a thief, a rebel, an orphan who'd lived in the shadows. Then Dax took her hand, their fingers intertwining, and the mate bond hummed with certainty. She wasn't any of those things anymore. Or rather, she was all of them, and more. And that was exactly who this kingdom needed. "People of the Moonborn territories," she said, her voice carrying through the grove, "I stand before you not to erase the past, but to build a better future. My family suffered under unjust rule. Many of yours did too. That ends now." She looked at the various alphas. "We will rule not through fear, but through partnership, not through conquest, but through genuine alliance. And anyone who harms a pack under our protection will answer to both of us." Dax squeezed her hand. "Together," he added, "we will forge a kingdom worthy of all who dwell within it. Not perfect, we're not naive, but better, always better." The cheers started slowly, then built to a roar. Not everyone was convinced. Change never came easy, but it was a start. That evening, they held a feast that lasted until dawn. Packs that hadn't spoken in decades shared tables. Old grudges began, tentatively, to heal. Cassian laughed with other young wolves, finally finding his place. Late in the night, Dax stole Lyric away to the palace gardens, to the same spot where she'd once planned her heists in secret, where he'd walked searching for peace. "Have I told you today that you're magnificent?" he murmured, pulling her close. "Only 6 times. You're slipping, Your Majesty." "Then let me make it 7. You're magnificent, my queen. My mate. My little thief who stole so much more than a crown." Lyric leaned into him, feeling the mate bond settle into something warm and permanent. "I never meant to fall in love with you. I know. You were supposed to hate me, take your revenge, and disappear." He kissed her forehead. Thank the moon, you're terrible at following plans. Powers. Says the king who fell in love with a criminal. Paz. Best decision I ever made. They stood there in the moonlight, two wolves who'd found each other against all odds. Above them, the stars blazed, brilliant and eternal. Do you think it'll work? Lyric asked quietly. This dream of ours? A kingdom united not by force but by choice? I think, Dax said, turning her to face him, that we've already done the impossible. We survived assassins, broke curses, defeated a soul-eating witch, and convinced a room full of stubborn alphas to give peace a chance. He smiled. Compared to all that, ruling a kingdom together should be easy. You're an optimist. I'm a realist who happens to be mated to a revolution. He kissed her then, deep and claiming, the bond flaring between them. And together, my love, we're unstoppable. Lyric kissed him back, pouring everything into it, her love, her trust, her commitment to this impossible future they were building. She'd started this journey stealing a crown to free her family. She'd ended it wearing a crown to protect everyone's family. And somehow, in the space between theft and sovereignty, she'd found something she never knew she needed. Home, purpose, love. Not despite who she was, but because of it. The girl who'd lived in shadows had become a queen who walked in light, and the king who'd been slowly dying had found life in her arms. Their story wasn't a fairy tale, too much blood, too many scars for that. But it was theirs, flawed, fierce, and wholly true. And in the end, that was the only magic that mattered. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the story. With love, Ella.